welcome to Catalyst MLM. I'm Brian Switchko, and today on the show we have Chris Brogan, and I'm extremely excited about that. More because I've followed him, I think, since 2009 on Twitter. But he co-wrote the New York Times bestseller Trust Agents, which I have right here. And I love the subtitle, Using the Web to Build Influence, Improve Reputation, and Earn Trust. One of my favorite books. He's also written 5 other books. He is the publisher and CEO of Owner Magazine. And Chris has also consulted with companies like Disney, Microsoft, Coke, Pepsi, Google, Motorola, and now he is here to share with us. Thank you so much for being there.
I'm thrilled to be on CatalystMLM.
CatalystMLM. An interesting story behind that one. But so you always talk about human business. So we were just talking about this right before we started recording. But what does it mean to you to do human business?
So the definition I came up with that I was able to say fastest to people was a sustainable, relationship-minded business. And when I say sustainable, there's a lot of people who think a human business means you have to live in your mom's basement the rest of your life. And that's not the goal.
It's not so bad.
Well, hey, I mean, if you put up some curtains, it looks great. The other is relationship-minded, which is to say that we're not looking for transactions. You know, the very early, when you say 2009, it's kind of funny because that's when I was invited to keynote with Julien. That's when our book came out, Trust Agents. Julien Smith and I keynoted Affiliate Summit that year. And when we did, it was because they were saying, man, we need to change the way people look at affiliate marketing. And we said, yes. And so we went and we were very excited about this because we were both proponents of affiliate marketing, but we had understood that there was this many years of very dark, negative, burn everybody as hard as you can to make the dollar. And so relationship minded, meaning you want more than the transaction. You actually want, you know, to build a sustainable relationship. Relationship minded business, it's not business unless there's actually a transaction happening. And usually that's money of some, or an exchange of value. So that's my definition of human business. And it's amazing how it always falls back to me. There's a problem. So if we're a carpenter, we think everything's a nail if we have a hammer, right? Yep. That's the old saying. I think everything has relationships attached to it. And when I don't have the strong enough relationship, that's when my business goes poorly. I'm running through that right now. I need more people that I know and I can trust and I can tap to beg for something right now. And I would not normally have that if I didn't have the capital to beg.
That's awesome. And I mean, you talk about building those human relationships remotely too through social media. And I'm extremely excited that you brought up affiliate marketing because multi-level marketing has a very similar model other than the fact that you tack on that you help other people do the same thing. But, you know, I always say that like if you try and sell something and you're gimmicky, you can sell things, but it won't last. So what is the importance in affiliate marketing and multi-level marketing of that long-term relationship?
So every time someone asks me advice, they always ask me, what's the number one thing that got you through business or whatever? I have the lamest answer, and it is so ridiculously true, though. Be helpful. And I don't mean be helpful such that your pocket grows. I mean be helpful. And I've found that every time that I try to be helpful to someone with an ulterior motive, nothing happens, or I don't get nearly the result I want. If I am just flat out raw helpful, if I just do something that I know is going to make their world better, money comes. It doesn't always come right from that person. It is always rarely quid pro quo. But it is that somehow the universe knows that I just helped that person and then some magic is going to happen. And every time I get selfish, business gets bad. So what MLM and what affiliate marketing could do best is equip people for success. That's what any marketing and sales could do. If you are doing it right, I'm being very judgmental, Brian, I think we can get to this level. Yeah. If we're doing it right, you should only sell stuff to people who need the stuff that you're selling, and you should only sell them stuff that's going to make them better. If you're selling water purification systems in some fancy pants neighborhood just because they have the money to buy them, you know, how's that helping? Oh, well, I'm helping them save money on their laundry detergent. Whatever. You know, I mean, it's hard for me to go there. But if you know your product or service, if you believe in your heart, if you would give your mom and dad the same product or service and not just to make $1, then that's what you're really trying to go for. And I think that that's the big difference. What gave affiliate marketing and definitely MLM a very bad name to a lot of people is I am going to sell the hell out of you until you buy because I just need the money.
Yeah.
You could turn it around. It's so easy. There are people who do network and MLM marketing that I would never, ever even give that label to because to me, the label still has a negative connotation. Affiliate marketing does too. If I introduced a friend and I said he's an affiliate marketer if the other person even had a glancing knowledge of what that meant, they'd think it was a Viagra seller. So in my mind, Brian, I think it's such a great opportunity to earn back the value, which is I am providing something that it's just going to change your world. And if you're not, sell a different product or sell to the person who needs the product you sell.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you say it in that way, because with multi-level marketing, you have a set of products or maybe a set of services, and they're the same for every single person in that business. But there's different things to look at. Like, a lot of people kind of disguise it and say, well, I'm selling, use the example of water purifiers because I'm helping people to be more hydrated and healthy. But then someone else might say, I'm selling a business opportunity that helps people be financially free, but that could be any business opportunity, and people could be financially free in any way, and that may not be the right one for them. But they kid themselves into saying that this is helpful. So how do you, I guess it's a kind of hard question to answer, but how do you determine that? What is helpful?
A lot of times people are indicating what they need the help with. I mean, it's a lot easier to help someone with financial freedom if they're like, I cannot go back to Best Buy again. I am losing my mind. I will never wear that blue shirt. I want to murder people who are showrooming or whatever it is. You know what I mean? Whatever company or job that they have, and they're like that. Or I'm going to get kicked out of my house in about 60 days. I can't even pay the rent, and I need to find some way to get this better. Yeah. Well, then you're sitting there going, I have the solution. Like, man, can I help you? Yeah. Or you might say, well, 60 days, that's pretty tight. Like, this thing I'm going to offer you is kind of a 90-day sort of a thing. So maybe I can help you find another gig or something. Maybe I can, you know what? I've got some IKEA furniture to install. I don't know how to put this stuff together. Are you smart? Maybe you could do it. I'll pay you. But in the meantime, I want you to work on this process with me. That's the thing. People are always crying for what they need. Sometimes you have to just readjust your language to make sure that the person understands that's what you're going for. I admit that I'm reading through some books on how to better understand NLP, the neuro-linguistic programming. And I say to people all the time, before you jump backwards and tell me something cool about it, I feel about NLP the way most people feel about religion, which is I kind of like the subject matter. I hate the fans. So don't tell me, because most people who practice NLP, I want to hurt their throats. And what I find is that when I read it for myself and I kind of take the interpretations, I'm like, oh, I need to say this in a better way so that the person understands and is aligned with what I'm really trying to convey here, which is not what I hear a lot of people saying to me, which is I can control your mind. Right. So, like, for instance, I've got a live event coming up at the time of this recording. I need more people to come to it. And all I keep thinking in my head is I clearly haven't explained all the value I intend to deliver at this event. Otherwise, people would come. And so I'm looking at the sales page and I'm saying, I've done it all wrong. I've got to communicate this in a better way that says to people, my job to make this event happen is to make you so much money based on what you've learned at the event that you're going to afterwards write me the best testimonial I've ever written, any human being, because you're like, I'm shoveling money into the trunk now. That's kind of what the goal is. So I think with the whole helpful thing, the biggest goal is really, am I really helping this person? And if you're not, leave the person alone.
And I love how you began that and how you said that. It's so, I mean, like voice inflection, tone, and how you worded it, because the way that you said it was not, hey, I have this business opportunity and, you can do this and let's kick ass together. It wasn't pitchy, right? It was genuine of like, I mean, I've got this thing and 60 days is tight, but I mean, if you're desperate and you want to make this happen, then this could be your solution. And that tone and that it was genuine. It was completely genuine, and you could tell that even though it's through Skype, and it was awesome. So you talk about and you've spoken before about contrast and having a contrasting message from other people and standing out. And so, I mean, you in some sense have a contrasting message in the sense that you're just so unbelievably genuine. You're just 100% Chris and no one else. How can someone help to discover that message themselves?
This is a really difficult thing to unravel, Brian, because I've learned that I'm a very bad teacher. I really have, and I'm not being humble or self-deprecating. It's very true. And the reason I say this is I feel like, don't you know how to just be yourself? Like, who else are you? But if you're anything like me, somewhere around, probably even before 7th grade, but very vividly in 7th grade, I started learning that I was not right for the universe. Like I was the wrong person. And I learned this by trying to talk to girls and realizing, wow, they are not picking up what I'm putting down. They greatly dislike me. And, you know, so
I
I
don't
would
think that's possible. This can't be true.
totally, utterly true. And guys too, you know, guys would be, you know, my friend Billy St. Amand and I would walk around back when American Top 40 was the only thing. And we would walk around with the list of the songs as they were reported on the radio, which by the way, we wouldn't go find in a newspaper. We'd listen to the stupid show for 4 hours and write them all down. And then we'd go and like harangue girls and some boys to fill in this thing to re-rank it for our school in 7th grade specifically.
Okay.
We thought this is the best way to get girls. It was the worst idea. In so doing, though, it was not being me. It was like, here's my gimmick, and I will use this to interface. So we're taught so early that we have to not be us, and we have to find some kind of an interface tool, and that we have to hide so much of us and only allow this part to show, because it turns out this is bad somehow. And a lot of times we don't even get why. And we're like, I got beat up in 8th grade for playing clarinet. This big guy, Keith Moon, smashed the hell out of me, knocked me into a snowbank and thrashed on me. And finally, I'm like, why are you hitting me? And he goes, you play clarinet. I was like, what? Like, why? Why is that bad? Because it's a bad instrument or something. And he hits me a few more times, and I go home and I'm like, oh man. So I tell my mom, I'm not playing clarinet, it's stupid. So she has to find me a saxophone, which is like, you know, parents are pathetic. Those poor people, like shell out more money, mom, because I don't want to play the other instrument you just paid for. And so, very long story to say, when people realize that the real money in life is in them being themselves, when they learn that who they really are will definitely appeal to some amount of people, then you're going to find some good stuff. Now, let me explain that if you, if the real you collects your own fingernails and toenails in a jar and you're really proud of that, it's going to be a small set of people that are really into what you're into.
But you will capture it.
They're there, you know. But, you know, if you can sort of shave off the Perez Hilton hot mess edges of this thing, then what's left over is really who you want to appeal to. And I can tell you hundreds of times over that the more real I am, the more I get business. You can choose to be who you want to be, but everyone I've ever seen try to put on some kind of a role abandons it 2 or 3 years later. Every time, you know, if I'm the such and such, I'm the deal doctor, you know, well then you're going to be the fish bouncer, you know, a couple of years later, and some other horrible idea. Oprah never said she was the anything.
Yeah.
And Ellen never said she was the anything. All these names suddenly become one-word names.
Right.
Jimmy Fallon is headed towards being a one-name name.
Yeah, because you just know the name.
It's just, we're just going to say Jimmy.
Yeah.
Like he's going to beat Kimmel. Like, so I think when you think about it that way, you just really have to be exactly Brian, or you have to be exactly, you know, who you really are. And at some point to your community, you are that first name person, and that's all you need.
Thank you. I just coincidentally got my first piece of written fan mail yesterday, and I was like, I had to sit there and read it like 5 times, and I was like, this is awesome. Yeah, so I mean, so when you talk about that and you talk about building that kind of genuine presence, I think it's interesting to think it in the term of branding, right? Because so many people spend so much time trying to brand themselves, and they aren't actually themselves. They don't take the time to act it. They're like, I am the so-and-so, you know, I'm going to start the next, you know, Facebook or, you know, whatever it may be. And they spend so much time branding themselves that they never act themselves. That's hugely important. And it's interesting because I've seen people get lost in the education of their industry. So affiliate marketing, online marketing, whatever it may be. And you said to pay attention to people unlike you. So would you say that it would be true to pay attention to people that are true to your core interests, not necessarily people that you need to pay attention to?
No one in your industry is ever going to teach you something amazing. There's 2 reasons why not. One is that they do pretty much the same thing you do, so you're not going to learn anything. Their super secret thing that they don't want to tell you about, which I have no secrets because that's not useful to me. Their super secret thing they're not going to tell you. The other thing is it'll be so small and incremental if you're just following your industry. I'll tell you one of the random weird examples of somebody who really changed my mind about something. I was listening to Wait, Don't Tell Me on NPR. And I was listening, they were interviewing whoever it was that kind of started NASCAR. and some old guy who's, I'm not going to know any names because I don't know anything about NASCAR.
Right.
The whole interview was kind of like, well, whatever. And I love Wait, Don't Tell Me. So I'm just kind of listening. And he says, well, do you all want to go to the show? And he goes, I've got tickets right here in my back pocket, and so he goes, oh, you're going to invite us? He goes, no, you got to pay for the tickets. They're for sale. Would you want to come to my show? And I thought, first off, he really honestly had a pad of tickets for sale to the next couple of shows of NASCAR in his back pocket. Two, he wasn't giving them away. He considered them something of value and worth that he wanted these people to pay for. Three, he was absolutely unapologetic. And I thought, if you love to death the thing you are selling, you could be that man. You should totally be that man. Like, I am selling you this thing, right? So I took that from some interview with some NASCAR guy, not from Seth Godin, not from Gary Vaynerchuk. And that's who you're going to learn from. You're going to learn from people way outside of your industry. There's a great book called Find Your Next by Andrea Cates that's all about that in big companies, and it's totally what you need to do.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that it's huge because people get locked into the multi-level marketing industry, but more dramatically, they get locked into the people within their company. They only listen to the people who've seen success in their company, not people who have seen success in other companies, not trainers, not people outside the industry completely. It's very rare that someone in multi-level marketing will have any kind of influence from outside of the industry. And that's why we brought you here.
Here's a hint. Nobody buying from you is in the industry.
Yeah.
So they're impervious to all your clever plans. You need to learn human dynamics. I mean, that's the other thing too, is when I get in the rooms, this has happened a few times, where a really smart marketer with a lot of experience in marketing has cornered me and yelled at me and said, you don't know anything. You don't have a degree in marketing. You never worked at a big agency. I end up hearing that and I think, wow, this poor guy, like nobody loves him. Like there's no attention shined on this person who's done so much for their industry and really deserves the credit. And they're feeling very hurt and very lonely because they've spent so many years earning the accolades of their industry. Right. And then I just blow right by them with absolutely zero belief that they're even there. And it's because I study humans. And it turns out there's an industry called human that spans all of the industries, and it's probably good to study that one because that's the only one that, there's biology involved. So it's pretty important to eschew all titles, and you're not trying to win the prize inside. First prize is a Cadillac, second prize is a set of steak knives, third prize is you're fired, right? That's not the game. The game is being the best salesperson you could be. The game is being the best marketer you can be. And the answer to what equals best is the one who best serves and is helpful to the community they have the pleasure and honor to serve.
Yeah, I love that. And I love the fact that you use the word love because it's true. It's you can get those trophies, but when someone realizes that a trophy is just an empty accolade, whereas someone who truly respects and like, not only I'm going to give you my money, I'm going to give you my respect and my trust and thank you for introducing this to me. Thank you for getting me excited about the NASCAR race and then just so happening to have, the tickets. And yes, of course I'll buy it. You always buy tickets to an event. I don't expect you to give them to me because you didn't imply that. That's it. People who don't get that, jealousy, I guess, is to boil it into one very basic, simple word. But when you actually experience it, what was it like when you first experienced that?
Oh, it took me a really long time not to get back into fights with every single person who wanted to fight. It took me a long time not to be like, oh yeah, well, you're a dummy head, and it never benefited me though. And so I started learning that my readership and my community that I have the pleasure and opportunity to serve also could care less about my fights with people who think they deserve more attention. And oddly enough, I was giving them more attention by, devoting pages and time to it. So I stopped. And when I meet people who are mad at me, which there's a good bunch because, they deserve it. They really deserve the attention. And they have won so many big trophies and awards from advertising agencies. And they really take umbrage to the fact that I am the one that people seek out for these events, given that don't they know more than me? And I get that. I really do. So what I usually do when I see them now is I just, I show them as much love as I can because these poor guys are so lonely. What I then do as I'm chuckling to myself is I remind myself that I keep checking with my bank and they do not accept my trophies as a mortgage payment. I tried. Oh my God. I went down there the other day. I was like, do you not know that I'm a New York Times bestselling author? And they were like, you are a month late with your mortgage. And I'm like, oh, well, did I ever tell you that I was also an Inc. and Amazon bestseller? And they're like, don't care. I was like, I've spoken to princesses before. They're like, still don't care, need your money. I said, do you know my clout score? My clout score is like almost Ellen DeGeneres and Shaquille O'Neal. It's like 2 points away from both of them. Like, can I just not pay a mortgage? And they're like, no, you owe me money. You work for your customers and your clients, and you work for money. That's the trophy. The trophy is you pay your bills. The trophy is you eat steak when you want. The trophy is, I think a vacation sounds delightful, and I don't mean at the Hampton Inn. That's a trophy. That's what you want. Screw a placard or a piece of glass that says you're the best MLMer around. Let me just bring that to the bar and ask a girl, what do you think? Not going to happen.
I want to see that video. But it's, and that's amazing. And I think that the feeling that you get when you're able to see the results of your efforts, and I think Zig Ziglar said, money is only a scorecard of how many people that you've helped. And I definitely see your scorecard, and it is racking up the points. So another thing that you said, and I'll wrap it up with this, is that you said that we buy from people who like us, and we buy from people we like, and we buy from people like us. I could have said that more consistently, but how how does that affect people across all industries? I mean, you talked about the human connection, but I guess, how do you connect that to the sale? How do you differentiate the guy who is selling tickets to NASCAR and the guy who's selling tickets?
Well, so, I mean, you need to sell the ticket to something that matters to you. So I was just in Huntington, New York, which is up in Long Island. And I don't know baloney about Long Island, but we asked the question, Jacqueline and I, where can we go on Long Island that would be kind of fun to roam around in like foot traffic-y kind of town? They said Huntington. Well, it's like a shopping area, and it is outdoors wandering shops on streets, Main Street USA kind of feeling. We walked by a Foot Locker, a running shoe store, a Merrill shoe store, a Birkenstock store, a skateboard store full of shoes in the window, a lacrosse store. And we wandered by this store called Rise New York, or Rise 45, I think it was called. And in the window was this kind of Nike high top, almost kind of boot hybrid that I'd never seen. And she goes, hey, let's go in. Okay. So I go in, and the place looks totally different than any shoe store I've ever seen. It's polished hardwood floors. There's these nice pedestals. There are very distinct sneakers in there, and only sneakers, not shoes, sneakers and a couple of boot pairs. And finally, I listening to this guy talk to a customer, and he's giving the history of this particular sneaker, and he's explaining what's the difference between this one and this one in great detail, ridiculous detail. Like, you shouldn't hear this much detail. I asked the other guy working, I said, what's the vibe here? Like, what are we getting? And he says, it is like a museum where you could actually touch and fondle and then buy the things you want. And we only put shoes in here that lovers of sneakers would want.
Yeah.
And it was 100% true. There was everybody in the store. The store is packed, full of people, and they were all like, well, tell me what's the story in this one? And they had like old timey Reebok pumps, the kind of new retro reversion of them. They had just sneakerhead shoes. And we left with something for Jack, and I bought a hat because I just thought the store was so cool. And that guy is killing it with all these other shoe stores around him. And the reason is because he loves it, and he is a freak about it. And to me, that's who inherits the earth. It's those people who love to death what they sell and believe in it. And so any MLM or listening to Brian, find your passion, find the thing that you really want to sell. I don't care what it is. It doesn't matter to me, but it is not that thing with a high commission. It is not that thing with a fast turnover. It is not that thing that just seems good on paper. It's something you love to do business with, and that's what's going to make the difference. By the way, that's my 7th book, The Freak Shall Inherit the Earth.
I want a copy. So for the person that, all right, let's say that they don't have the blog, they don't have a Twitter account yet, they're not, they don't have any presence, and they have that thing deep down at their core. They already know it. It makes their heart beat faster. It makes their eyes dilate. It just makes them unbelievably full body excited, but they don't feel comfortable talking to people about it, and they don't have the online presence yet. What is one thing that they can do with one person in their life? They can go to them and experience that return because they're sharing how much they love this thing so that they can see the benefit and carry it forward?
Wow, what a great question. I think that if you are willing to talk to people in person, there's always public groups that are looking for speakers about different things. If speaking scares the hell out of you, then there's always small groups that you can put together. You could say, tack something up on the local corkboard at the grocery store, gathering to talk about XYZ, watches, whatever it is that you're into. And someone will come. They always do. And you can go from there. Now, why not start a site online? I mean, to me, it's anything online is something that sells while you're sleeping, and I'm a big fan of that. So, I mean, I made about 3,000 in sales last night, and I was asleep the whole time. It was a really good feeling.
The whole time.
Yeah. Well, I did wake up to pee, but I did not help anybody buy anything. They just bought. And so, to me, getting to some kind of online presence matters. And the reason is that, it gets kind of tiresome to keep having, grocery store corkboards be your marketing method. But starting somewhere, start there. Ask somebody locally, find a friend willing enough to listen to your inanity for a while. It doesn't hurt. The worst people to roll this out to, though, your great passion, oddly enough, are your closest friends and your loved ones, because they could say one wrong thing because they're dealing with their own autobiography at that moment, and sink you, and it'll have nothing to do with the real world. Or they can remember that time that you also were into this other thing, and they'll bring up the past and make you feel bad, but they might not realize that this really is the one or whatever. And so there's a lot of things our loved ones do to us by mistake that can wreck this journey. And so I find sometimes that there's solace in strangers. That's what I found online a million years ago, is that I'd have much better conversations with strangers than I ever would by, talking to people who said they love me.
I completely agree. And same thing. I mean, even in I went to grab a coffee. It was in New York before I was roaming around. I ended up spending 5 hours talking with the guy next to me. And it was just, we're still good friends. And I mean, I think you're right about the family, but yeah, it's awesome. And I think that anyone watching this is going to be able to find that. And thank you so much. And I'm going to link all the resources below. Catalyst community knows they can find them there, as well as your website, and connect with you, and look forward to having you on again soon.
Brian, it means a lot to me. I really enjoyed our time together at NMX. So I haven't written you a fan letter. I guess I should, but I'm a fan of yours. So thank you for having me in your community.
And I will, I'm going to have that picture of us somewhere in this interview, because it is amazing. It makes me smile every time. Thank you.